Hi, I'm Austin Smith, and this is my custom project that I made for my first year in digital media arts. So, my plan was to make a fully working torch in Blender for my custom project. I wanted to explore Blender and the ways that it worked. Um, so, in order to do this, part of my project was to go through and see, well, if I pursue this career path, how much money, what kind of job am I going to find in this path? How much money are they going to make? Um, so the three jobs that I found in this area are 3D animate as a 3D animator, $64,470 annually a year. Web design 44,830, and graphic design $63,160 a year. Um, Out of all of it, as a whole, I didn't really project myself going into 3D animation, but I wanted to explore it more because I know I've worked with Blender before, so I thought, well, why not dabble in it a little bit more? Um, so moving on, the software and hardware I used for my project itself was Blender version 2.76. This is the newest version of Blender so far, right up to the minute. Um, the computer I used was one of the IT Academy Dell Precision T3 400s. There's a serial number there as well. Um, that's really all I needed for this project. It wasn't too complicated. Learning Blender was somewhat difficult, but Blender is just a very in-depth kind of program to learn. Um, Speaking of that, the usage of Blender. It's a highly detailed program, Blender. You can go shadows, you can make textures, you can transform figures in the node, you can transform colors, apply textures. You can do all this in a node editor, or you have your 3D world editor that you can use. It's a very highly detailed program, and it was very meticulous to learn, and I still don't fully understand some of the applications, but my training didn't cover some of the super detailed um, decisions that can be made within Blender to alter the look of the object. Speaking of training, nice little segue. Educational resources. I use Neil Hersig's Blender 3D design course. Great. It was amazing. I loved it so much. It was so easy to follow. Um, I used lessons 1 through 10. It was very easy to follow. I couldn't have asked for a better resource. It went beautifully in the way that he talks, and is step by step, easy to follow. It took less time than I thought it would, definitely. Um, I mean, there were some lessons that went over kind of the same stuff that a lot, like one lesson would talk about one thing, and then it would talk about it again in another, and it would just kind of be a little repetitive from what the last one went over. Um, I guess in turn that was supposed to be like kind of a refresher, because obviously he probably didn't intend them to uh, for them all to be watched in one go, like I watched them all in one go. But you know, I did. Project timeline. I was told this by Mr. Otero, my instructor here. I was right on point with this, and I couldn't have asked more of it. Um, I started so far what I was able. I started my custom project late within the year. Later, because I'm a freshman, I started later in the year than what a lot of the other kids did. So all I got done, unfortunately, was the training. Um, was training, and I started to dabble into modeling the torch itself. I didn't get to do it completely, but um, I was happy with my timeline that I had set up. It worked great for what I if I would have been able to follow it. Um, that wasn't my fault. It was just freshman year. There's a lot to do. It's very crazy, but I was very happy with it. It worked. It would have worked very, very well. I feel like. I feel like it would. And I gave myself leeway days where I would have been able, if I'm not feeling it, I can take a break for a little bit. And I gave myself those days because I know me. Um, my task list alignment. So, as a DMA student, we have a task list that we have to meet, and it has to be done by the end of our senior year, and we have to meet as many requirements on that list as possible before we leave. Before we graduate. Um, we had to have 5. I have 5 here. These are the 5 that I completed. Well, completed and or am going to complete with the conclusion of the project. Um, building a document using industry accepted software. I did that multiple times when I used Microsoft Word to create my. Well, I guess I can't think of one at the moment. I could say PowerPoint. I used PowerPoint to create the PowerPoint that you see on the screen, I see on my computer, and that you're probably seeing as well. I used PowerPoint. That's industry accepted. I met that requirement. So, in conclusion, Blender was a complex program to learn, but all you can do is try. And I tried my very hardest to learn Blender, and I feel as though I exceeded at that somewhat. I mean, if I would have completed my training, I feel like, well, I completed my training. I feel like if I would have completed the project, I would have been able to learn some more from doing rather than watching. I mean, while watching the training, I did open up Blender and followed along, but I feel like if I would have been out on my own and done it, I feel like I would have learned more. But I was very happy with what I did, with everything that I had. It was if I would have been able to follow it down to a T, I feel like I would have blown it out of the water. But I was told that I did anyway, so I guess that's good. Um, well, that was it. I hope you enjoyed it, or whatever. Um, that was my little endeavor into Blender in my first custom project. See you again next time.